Good evening and welcome to episode 1 of my brand new little show that I'm trying to put together. It's called Have Your Say, the opportunity for regular Spurs fans to come along, talk about their team, get some stuff off their chest, have a little bit of therapy, that kind of stuff. And so tonight, for my very first show, I have my good friend Lewis, who is another member of South Dorset Spurs, who comes along to the games with us. And he's also a subscriber to the channel. So thanks to him, he's keeping me going. And thanks for him for coming on to kind of give me a bit of support, get me going on my first show. So, Lewis, how's it going, buddy? You all right?
Yeah, I'm very well, mate. Very well. Not enjoying the changing weather, so to speak. It's been a bit cold today, but yeah, I'm very well. How about yourself? You good?
Yeah, I'm all right. After the weekend, I've managed to kind of calm down a little bit. We did the Shooting the Shit show the other day, and that kind of allowed me to get it off my chest a little bit. So, and now we've got the international break, and so all of a sudden my anxiety and my need for Tottenham is kind of coming back. So I'm kind of getting the jitters again because I'm a bit of a Tottenham addict. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. So yeah. So can't wait for it to come back, even if that does mean that we're just going to spend more time bloody moaning about it. But listen, it won't be the same if it wasn't like that for us, would it? So listen, have a minute, introduce yourself. You're Lewis. You're a Tottenham fan. Why are you a Tottenham fan? What's going on down here in Dorset? So what makes you a Tottenham fan? How long you been a Tottenham fan?
Well, hello. Yeah, so my name's Lewis. I'm 48 years old, and I feel 48 years old some days more than others. But yeah, I've been a Spurs fan. I suppose I've got to give preps to my uncle Steve. It's probably his fault I'm a Spurs fan. But obviously I grew up in Hertfordshire, so where I went to school, you were either Spurs or you're Arsenal. You know, that was the main sort of thing. And I went the Spurs way, and I suppose I remember the UEFA Cup win. I was only 7, I think. Then I think that was the earliest memory of Spurs. Wasn't, I kind of had a little soft spot for them, so to speak. But it weren't until I suppose you could say the FA Cup win was the big one for me, and that was it. It cemented it for me. Then I was in love with them. Then after that, and I've been suffering ever since, so to speak. But so born and bred in Hertfordshire, and now I've ended up down in Dorset like yourself. Yeah. Try and get to as many games as possible, but obviously it's not quite as easy these days with kids and that, and being a billion miles away. But yeah, it's had its ups and it's had its downs. Been a Spurs fan, I can't lie.
So poor old. Did you say Steve, your uncle? Steve.
My uncle Steve. Hopefully he's watching tonight as well.
Well, Steve. Yeah, you've got to either be proud that you've instilled this into your young nephew, or really sad that you've put him through this turmoil that is Tottenham Hotspur. I'm the same, right? My eldest son is a big Tottenham fan, comes up to the games as well, and two of my grandsons are both Tottenham fans. So we've kind of cemented our legacy into the club. But I don't know whether I should feel proud of that or sad of that, to be honest with you, because them poor sods are probably going to have to put up with what we've put up with for the last God knows how many years. So anyway, listen, first question. Let's kind of get it out there already. As a Spurs fan, how are you feeling? How are you feeling right at this moment in time? Forget about the weekend. Overall, how are you feeling?
Overall, I don't think it's as bad as... I mean, you have to ignore everything that's going on online because people just have an absolute meltdown. The minute we lose, and I get it, I'm the same. I don't go as far as going mental online and going, get rid of this, sack them, do this, do that. I'm generally hacked off when we lose, and put out a rubbish performance. But overall, where we were before Ange came in and the dire football we had through previous managers, we're in a better place overall, I think. And I think generally, direction-wise, we are going in the right direction. Yes, it's hitting its bumps on the way, but we were told that was going to happen. We were told at the start that it weren't going to be plain sailing. I think because we had such a good start when he came in, I think we all got carried away a little bit and kind of thought, this is it now. We're going to be like this. And it's football. It doesn't quite work like that, you know. And we've had a lot, you know, the club itself has had a lot of issues and a lot of problems, and it's trying to iron them out, you know. And I don't think it's a quick fix as much as what people think it would be, you know. But in general, I'm enjoying the football. The games are more exciting, bar the games where we played bad. But listen, we're not consistent enough to iron out them bad results yet, in my opinion. You know, I mean, that is my opinion. And I think we're going in the right direction. It's just frustrating when we beat teams on paper we should beat, and then beat teams that most people say, oh, you ain't going to beat them, and then we do. So it's kind of, it's frustrating, but on the outlook, I'm happy with the way we're going. I think that we're making steps forward.
So I guess, listen, everyone's got their own opinion, right? And it doesn't matter. And no one's opinion's right. No one's opinion's wrong, because it's their personal opinion. I've said it before. Opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one, right? So ultimately, you've got the right to feel the way you do. And to be clear, I pretty much feel the same way you do, right? I'm a fan of where we're going, what we're doing, and so I pick up exactly where you're coming from. I guess the difficult bit is the patience and stuff, because everyone talks to us about patience, don't they? Tottenham fans need to be patient and that, and we've been patient for. I mean, I would say we haven't been a decent team probably since the 80s. You know, when we won the UEFA Cup, got to the FA Cup final 87 and all that. That was probably after Birkinshaw left. It was probably the beginning of the end. So when people talk about patience, you think to yourself, how patient do you want me to be? But I guess the reality is you have to take it from the start of the new project, yeah?
Yeah. I totally agree. You know, like I say, even when we won the FA Cup, if someone had said to me back then, you ain't going to win this again for a long, long time, I would have laughed at them, because we were known as a cup team. You know, we had that pedigree about us. And even then, you know, in the league, we weren't particularly convincing that year. You know, we weren't this huge team that everyone sort of, we put Spurs on this huge pedestal of being this massive, massive club, but we haven't really done a lot, you know, in a long time, you know. So when fans, you know, start saying, oh, we should be beating these teams, we should be beating them. Well, why should we? Yeah. You know, we haven't dominated, you know. Yes, we came close. And I think under Pochettino, he took us as high as we could probably possibly get at the time. I think we overachieved a lot. And I think we missed a real big trick there to kick on and do better. But yeah, it is frustrating as a fan when you keep hearing the be patient, you know, come on, and you think, well, I keep hearing this over and over again. It starts wearing a bit thin. But look at other clubs, you know, look at Notts County where they are nowadays. You know, you just think football changes, you know, you're not guaranteed anything really.
Yeah, I mean, there's big clubs out there. When they talk about Tottenham being, you know, never winning anything and blah blah blah, there's no one ever talks about teams like Newcastle, for instance, who haven't won anything since the 60s or whatever. 2 FA Cup finals in the kind of, I don't know, it was the late 90s, early 2000s, whenever, which they lost both of, and so on. And no one ever kind of calls that out. And then you've got, you know, teams like Villa, who were massive when I was growing up. You know, Villa was a really big team. Forest, another massive team. Leeds. I mean, these teams, you know, were all up there, you know, with really good. I mean, even Everton. Again, really big pedigree. So I guess I get frustrated because people say, "Oh, you've got to wait." You know, you've got to be patient and all the rest of it. And I think, well, how patient can you be? But I guess my point was, you can't just keep going and harping back to the last 20 years. You've got to go, well, look, this project started when Postecoglou come in. So are we now? This is the point where we've got to be patient from, you know, to kind of see where it takes us. So just kind of moving on a little bit. At the start of this season, what was your expectations for Tottenham? What did you think was gonna happen?
Well, I personally thought we were going to really kick on. You know, I thought Yeah, we did. We were unlucky not to get fourth last year, and I thought we would really start strong, and start well. And I wasn't expecting the slip ups that we've had, sort of thing. Yeah, it's been a bit disappointing the start. I'm not going to lie, but then you see some of the games that we should have won or could have won, and we'd be right up there. The Newcastle game, the Leicester game. It's fine margins though, and I suppose this goes back to how you're feeling about in general about the club. A lot of times it's been fine margins, and you think, well, bar the few, we've had a few awful games. The Palace one, previous game, Brighton throwing it away, but it's just small little things that let us down. So it's not like massive, like we've been awful. Bar the couple of games I've mentioned. It's just a couple of things ain't gone our way, and we ain't taken our chances. We've had a hatful of chances in the first half, and if we would have taken them, we'd have blown the team out of the water. They wouldn't have had any chance to get back into the game. And I suppose we've allowed a lot of these teams, by not putting these chances away, allowed them back into the game, sort of thing, sort of shot ourselves in the foot, So, I expected better. But every fan does. You start a season, you start optimistic. You think, right, let's go for it. I still think, squad wise, I still think we're a little bit light, and I think that's kind of biting us in the arse at the moment, cover wise.
So in terms of so at the start of this season, if I said to you that we'll come, I don't know, 7th this season. But do well in the cups. Would that have been progress for you, in your mind?
I suppose if you had said 7th and win a cup, then I'd say yeah. I'd like to see a better run in the cup, but I really want us to win one. Yeah. Ideally an FA Cup. I'd love to see the FA Cup. I would take the League Cup. Don't get me wrong. Beggars can't be choosers, but I'd love the FA Cup. I mean, for me, that would be progress. That would be okay. We managed to get a bit of form together. We've gone all the way. We've won something. That for me would be, and then we finish 7th. I'll be like, okay, but we won something. That's an improvement, because there was a lot of teams in there. That seem to be doing better this year. I think there's a lot more competition up there in the spot where we're going for. I think it's a lot more open this year than what it was last year. So if we did finish 7th but won a cup, I would be happy with that. Obviously, I'd want to finish higher, but I just want a trophy. Not going to lie.
Yeah, no, I think most of us are in that boat, right? That we all want some kind of silverware to feel like we get that monkey off our back and get all these, media idiots and other teams off our back and all that. Although, if I'm being honest with you, I don't think that'll happen. We can win the FA Cup, we could win the Europa, we could win, the Carabao Cup, and I still think we would get ribbed by our, by the other fans because it's Tottenham, and that's just kind of what happens. But like in my mind, when I did a show, I think we've probably I can't remember who it was. It might have been the Irish Hotspur actually, and he said like, what are you expecting? What's where do you think we'll finish in the league? And I kind of said somewhere around 6th or 7th, because I didn't think that the signings we made were going to be strong enough to actually take us that next level. I felt like we were building maybe, but I don't know whether that was enough to take it. But I did feel like this would be a really good opportunity to win a cup. And we do have, like you just said, a lot of other teams kind of pushing on. Chelsea are going to be better this year. Villa will probably be stronger this year. There's going to be other clubs kind of pushing for that top 4, and you're not going to get away from the Man City, Arsenal, and Liverpool kind of trio, kind of going for 1, 2, and 3 in some order, right? So that kind of only really gives us the 4th really to play for, because I'm not sure thinking we're going to win the FA Cup, going to win the Premier League, nowhere near. So no. I guess my view is let's get a cup if we can do that. But if we end up, 6th, that would be great because we're still in Europe. if you win the Europa, you're in the Champions League, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
they've got to be your priorities.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I would take the Europa. I mean, that's that's a European trophy, and then that's into the Champions League. Then you ain't got to worry about not getting fourth. Then have you?
No.
I'd take that all day long.
Yeah. I mean, David just asked a question here. Do you think Ange keeps his job if we keep losing to these so-called winnable games like Ipswich? What's your view on that?
Um,
Do you think he's under pressure from the owners?
I don't know. See, I don't know. I know he's under pressure from there's a lot of fans out there, and I think it's the same brigades that are the kind of the knee-jerk brigade, as I call them.
Yeah.
There's like the minute we lose, they're like, let's get rid of them. And I think, well, that's fine if that's your opinion. Like you said before, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but come with the solution. Who'd you get in then?
Yeah.
So what? We get rid of him. We get rid of all the backroom staff. We start all over again, and then they bring in their own players, their own coaching, and then you've got to be patient. I'm sick of it. I would rather stick with it until it sorts itself out, rather than knee jerk. Let's chop and change. Let's get someone else in, because I don't think that's the solution. I think the problem we haven't had is stability as a club.
Yeah.
The most successful clubs have had stability. I mean, bar Chelsea, they used to sack the manager. Oh, you finished second in an FA Cup, that's not good enough. Off you go. And I remember saying to a mate at the time, I said, they're going to run out of managers soon that have got that right pedigree that can come in and do an instant job. And look what happened. They did. They started getting people like Graham Potter in there. Didn't work. They soon run out. So, it's all very well for the fans to say, get rid of him, but no one's saying what the answer is. Getting rid of him is not going to solve anything, because you need to bring someone in who's going to instantly change things. But yeah, obviously he is going to come under pressure if he keeps losing to teams that we should technically beat. But I think you said on your channel the other night, saying that teams like Ipswich and that, they're a Premier League team, regardless if they haven't won a game. They're in the Premier League because they fought their way to get in there. So they've got something about them on their day, like any team in the Premier League, on their day, any team is capable of beating any team. If they are on it more than the other team, they'll win. They've got the quality, and that's why they're in the Premier League.
Well, we've seen it, haven't we? We've seen it with teams like Bournemouth, who people will knock Bournemouth down, but they've beat Arsenal, they've beat Man City, right? So it's all well and good people saying, these are so-called teams you should beat. I mean, I had this discussion with Sweary Alex on Tuesday, and he was saying about it, and I get what he's saying, right? This is Ipswich Town. This is Ipswich Town just come up. We should be battering them, but we didn't. But my argument always is, on their day, anyone can beat anybody. You've got no God-given right to win a football match, And kind of going back a little bit, going back a step to what you were saying earlier, in terms of the games that we've played, have we really played that badly in the majority of those games? Because Leicester, we probably should have seen that out. Newcastle, we were unlucky. Arsenal, we lost by a 1-goal set piece, and we played fairly well in majority of those games. Brighton, we played really, really well in the first half and just shot ourselves in the foot in a second. So overall, how many actual bad performances have there been? I mean, Ipswich, I was at the game. I felt it was a really slow, poor build-up, too slow. We weren't on it. And I felt very similar for Crystal Palace. But barring those two games, I don't think we've played that badly. And like you said before, fine margins, right? Yeah.
And it's a fine margin. Sometimes there's a difference between a win and a loss. It's football. That's what happens. Everyone knows if you don't take your chances, and the other team suddenly sort of thinks, well, hang on a minute, we're kind of riding our luck here. Luck's on our side, and then they can go on and get something out of the game. This is what I don't understand when people moan about it. You think, how long have you actually been watching football? There's no such thing as we can beat this team on paper. You play teams on on the grass, on the pitch, not on paper.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, you can have one game where the guy does one pass into the box and it lands straight to someone's feet or bounces off someone and goes in. You know, it sometimes to be a lottery. You know, look at the times we won games under Conte and we were awful, absolutely dreadful. I remember the West Ham game. We won 2-0. I was watching that at home. I was falling asleep on the sofa. It was so boring and we won and it didn't feel like a win, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, at least, bar the games where it didn't look like the players really gave a shit, you know, let's be honest. And I think that's what really pissed a lot of fans off, you know. It's the effort thing, isn't it? It's when they kind of look around and they don't look like they really care and they think, well, it's international break, you know, I've got international game coming up soon, so I don't want to, you know, pull a hammy like coming up to that. It's that you don't want to see, you know?
Yeah.
But bar all that, like you say, the rest of the games, you know, it's been a good watch. It's been a good watch. And that's what we, you know, we paid to see.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, right, sorry to cut you, but if you think about it, Brentford, what was that, 3-1, West Ham 4-1, Everton 4-0, Man United 3-0, Villa 4-1. You know, these were good performances and good wins. You know, you've got to keep that in perspective, I guess, is my view on it. I want to come back about where we are currently, right? So I guess my question is, are you happy to have a rebuild? And is what happening what you thought it would look like? So everyone's wanted a rebuild since Pochettino, right?
Yeah.
But everyone wants it until you're in it, in a rebuild. So I guess in your mind, is what we're going through at the moment a rebuild? Is this what you expected it to look like?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And this is when Ange first come in, everyone's like, don't want him. I start, until someone's linked with us or they're there, I'll start looking into it and think, you know what? I started looking into it and thinking, he knows his stuff. There's something about him and the way he plays and that. And I just thought straight away, I watched a lot of videos and they were talking about it, saying, look, it's not gonna click straight away. It's gonna take a while. You've just got to keep going with it, you know? And a lot of fans are sort of saying, you know, he needs to have a plan B, he needs to change this, needs to change that. But then you look at Ten Hag I hate to talk about other clubs, but Ten Hag at United, he started off all right, and then I think they got absolutely done by Liverpool. And all of a sudden he thought, I can't play like that. So he started changing the way they played. And then that didn't work. So he changed it again. That didn't work. Changed it again. That didn't work. And before you know it, you've got 11 players out there who don't know what they're doing. They've got no direction. They're like, well, which way do you want us to play? Because last week you want us to do this. Now you want us to do that. And I think, you know, the rebuild thing, I think it's a whole philosophy change with the club, which is what was needed. And I think we had such a good start. I put that down to the fact that the players were so fed up with the negative style that Ange comes in and says, look, we're going to do this. And they're all on board straight away.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't think a lot of them had the sustainability to keep up that level of what he demands, because it is a lot. It is a lot he expects from the players. And I think that's where we've kind of unstuck a little bit in some games that we should have won, you know. But yeah, in opposed to the rebuild, I did expect this, because I knew we were in such a mess. It needed to be done. You know, he got rid of so many players. To be fair, when Pochettino came in, he did the same. He looked at the players and thought, you're not mine. You need to go. And that's part of the rebuild. But at the same time, you've got to replace them. And you can't just go, right, you 22 players, you're crap. See ya. The transfer market don't work like that. So you've got to swap players out and improve these positions one step at a time. And I think we're still a couple of steps away from where we need to be, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. You made some really good points there. And I guess this was the reason why I asked the question, right, is in my mind, when we were talking about a rebuild, I was thinking, right, okay, so you're going to have to turn over a few players every season, and it's going to take 4 or 5 years to get in, to change a whole squad. And then bang, straight away, we've kind of, within sort of 18 months, we've cleared out all bar probably 3 players. We've still got Son, who you wouldn't want to get rid of. We've still got Ben Davis, and we can argue about Ben Davis until the cows come home, and Reguilon. And the only reason we got Reguilon is because nobody else wants him, right? So every other player has been moved on, disappeared, sold on, whatever it might be. For me, I thought, wow, that's massive. But of course, then you've got to replace all those players. And I don't think the transfer window was strong enough in terms of what we've brought in. But it's still got to be right. And I think Andrew's been really honest from the beginning in that he said, there'll be good days, there'll be bad days. It's going to take time. Winning one cup, it doesn't solve anything. What you want is long-term sustainable success. You want to be the Man City of the future that are going to win everything all the time. That's what he's trying to work towards. Now, that isn't going to happen in 18 months. But I guess getting the monkey off our back of winning a trophy might buy just enough time. I think if you look at, like you said, about the whole structure of the club and the mentality of the players, the staff, the fans, and everything else that's been going on, it's a massive job to turn all that over and change it in, 3 transfer windows that we've had so far.
Yeah.
And you've got to build for the future as well as for now. But, I've had lots of people talk, I know I'm rambling a little bit, but I've had lots of people talking about Conor Gallagher. We wanted Conor Gallagher, blah, blah, blah. There is no way on this planet Conor Gallagher was ever going to come to Tottenham. He's a Chelsea boy.
No.
He's no way did he want to come to us, right? People talk about Ivan Toney, right? Well, he was never going to come to Tottenham because all he was interested in is the money. And just pretty much said that. So I don't know why fans are always complaining about, we could have got this one or we could have got that one. Because the reality is we probably couldn't. We probably were never in for them anyway. And they're not the right fit because you've got to have the right type of player with the right attitude as well.
Yeah.
What do you think of that? Do you agree with that? Or?
Well, totally. Well, look at Mickey van der Ven for a start.
Yeah.
Prime example. Don't want him. Never heard of him. We want Tapsoba. We want him. We want this guy. The one that we've been linked with. We want him. We didn't get him. We got Mickey van der Ven. And look how amazing he's been for the club. So my lad's just popped his head in. Yes, I mean, look how it panned out, and the same as the goalkeeper Vicario. Just got to trust that they're looking for the right sort of players that we don't know. I could pick a load of players out and go, I quite like him. It's down to the manager to work out whether he's going to work in his system, his style of coaching. It's got to be the right personality. Tony didn't have the right personality. Look at how many clubs he could have gone to. Why was none of them, not just us, why was all the others not interested in him? Yeah. It said it all. They were obviously put off by something, which was obviously he wanted money, know? And I would rather have a Solanke all day. That's another one that people were going, 65 million quid. But that was his release clause. Bournemouth didn't want to sell him. This is his release clause. It's not like we went in there and said, he's 65 million, we'll have him. No, they were like, if you want him, you pay 65 million. And do you remember how much Spurs fans used to moan at a certain Daniel Levy saying, well, why aren't you just paying what they're asking for?
Yeah.
Just
pay the money.
You can't win. You can't win, no. You can't win in that scenario. But it is right about the right fit, And I think with talking about the Solanke as well, that deal as well, that was one of them ones I was like, he's an all right player. And then I started looking because I'm not a Bournemouth fan. I don't watch him every week. The fact their fans know more about it. So I started watching a bit more. But I remember when we played against them, I couldn't work out which position he was because he was all over the pitch. I thought he was a midfielder. He was everywhere. And then you start looking at the way he plays and that, and then you start looking at the way we play and you think, actually, that fits in with what we're trying to do, So, yeah, they'll leave it to them to make the decision. Like I say, they always pick players and you think, what are they gone for them for? But, you like to think, you like to hope they know what they're doing better than we do because they're paid to do it.
I mean, I can remember going back with the Ndombele thing, right? Where everyone was like, we want Ndombele, he's the best thing in Europe, He's a great player, blah, 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 he's going to be fantastic and all the rest of it. And fair play, the guy is talented, absolutely talented.
Bags of talent.
Yeah, absolute bags and bags of talent. They paid 60-odd million for him. They brought him in and his attitude was appalling. He was lazy, he was overeating, he was overweight all the time. And you can see from where his career's gone, even since he's left Tottenham, right? That's not always the answer to just go, oh yeah, well, he's a top talent. We've got to have him. It was exactly the same with Lo Celso, who again
Yeah,
is a very, very talented player, but he's not any good in the Premier League. You know, Sergio
no,
Reggio. Everyone was talking about how great he was going to be at Real Madrid and all the rest of it. But Real Madrid ain't took him back. No one
no.
wants him. So
He
and everyone was calling out that how great a deal these players are. So there has to be a thing in there about who is the right type of player, who has the right type of attitude at the same time as whether they're, you know, good enough or whatever. And you're absolutely right about the price. You tell me where you can go and find a proven Premiership goal scorer for under £60 million. Who else is there? Are you going to get?
No, exactly. You know, I remember saying that at the time. I was arguing with loads of people over it, and they were going, "Oh, it's too much. It's too much. He's only had one good season." I was like, "Yeah, but look at his career in general. I mean, I think he was at Chelsea when he was a youth player, and I
Yeah,
think he was scoring goals for fun for them. And I think the season before he scored the most amount of goals for Bournemouth, he was under a different manager. Was it Gary
yeah,
O'Neill? I think he was under a very defensive manager that didn't
yeah,
see the way he
yeah,
plays. And I just thought, you put him in our team that creates all them chances, that's looking for a guy that comes short, looking for a guy that pushes upfield, that presses at the top. And he's so good at pressing. And I was just like, this is a no-brainer. Literally a
yeah.
no-brainer. You know?
There was
And even the games where he hasn't scored, he's played amazing. And you can look at that and go, okay, he didn't get on the score, he didn't get an assist, but he worked his socks off all game. You know, and that's all you want to see.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I said the same about the West Ham game, that he was one of our best players, even without getting an assist or getting a goal, because I just thought his work rate and the effort that he put in that created the space for others was brilliant. There's a podcast by the guys from the Fighting Cock called The Lab. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but in that podcast they did a thing about Solanke with a Bournemouth fan. Who talked about him and talked a lot about what he brings to the game and all the rest of it. And I have to say, he was spot on. I can't remember what the guy's name is, but if you get a chance, and that goes for anybody who's watching, if you get a chance to listen to The Lab, it's a really good podcast. But say the one about Solanke was a really, really interesting one, and it makes the same kind of points that you made, really. So I mean, in terms of positives. In terms of positives, do you feel that there's some positives in that? I mean, I know Mickey van der Ven's injured, but Solanke's got to be a positive, right?
Oh, 100%. There's a lot of positives, you know, and it's good because we're moving away from the Ipswich result. So it's kind of starting to fall in a distant memory. You know, luckily I was
Yeah,
at a kids' party when the game was on, and I was watching it on a stream and it kept dropping out. So I didn't get to watch all of it, which was a blessing. But the bits I did see was awful. But there is positives though, because we have got a performance in us. That's the
yeah,
thing. When it clicks, it works so well. But that's the way we play, you know, starting to sound like Ange. But when it goes right, it's a real good thing to watch. You know, a real good thing. So there's a lot of positives. I just think that we've got a lot of injuries. I mean, we're going to lose Bentancur now, aren't we, for
yeah.
7 games, is it?
7 matches, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my only disappointment is some of the youngsters that come in that ain't really sort of shone as much as I'd like. I mean, we've seen spells of Archie Gray, but he's been played all over the field, so it's really
Yeah,
hard to gauge. You know, I see him as a midfielder, but he rarely gets picked in that spot. You know, he played centre back, left back, right back. I'd like to see him in a more central role and see where he is. You know, and
yeah,
Bergvall as well. He's another one that I kind of looked into a lot and thought he could be a real good thing with us. The problem is we ain't got luxury because we've had a few disappointing results. It's difficult to throw some of these youngsters in as a solution when you've got quite a big, you know, you've got an issue going on. It's a lot of pressure to chuck them in. It's better than when
yeah,
you're doing well and you sort of say, oh, come on, mate, we're 3-0 up. You come and jump on for 20 minutes and, you know, have a go sort of thing. You know, there's no real pressure. But,
yeah. No, I agree with that. I agree with that. I've seen. I watched. Me and Brad went out to Budapest and watched the Ferencváros game. And
Yeah.
during that game, Archie Gray was on the left hand side and left centre back, and we were really close to the pitch. And watching him up close, that close, I was really impressed with Archie Gray. I was really impressed with him, and we saw what he could do when he put that ball in the other day.
Yes.
Yeah,
what a ball!
What a ball that is! He didn't give
That
up.
was amazing.
Sonny gets pulled down and he carries on going, and he clips that ball to the back post there. So there is, and bear in mind, this is an 18-year-old kid, right? He's
That's
18 years of age. He's got to learn. He's got to get better, and so on. And I guess that's similar for Bergvall, right? We haven't seen enough of him yet. He's been unlucky. He got took off because of Dragushin getting the red cards and so on.
That was gutting,
He's got to wait and take it and take his opportunities. Brad asked a question which I think is quite interesting. Do you think that Ange's style is more for cups than league? Because I guess it's a bit more of a swagger kind of go for it type thing. That anything can happen in a one-off game like that. Whereas league, you need that consistency. Do you think that what we're doing at the moment is more suited to getting us over the line for a cup?
Well, there's a little bit of truth in that. I think that's a very good question, because you look at Terry Venables, when he won the FA Cup with us in '91, he kind of had that about him, didn't he? He didn't really have the consistency in the league, but he could motivate them for a cup game. They'd be up for it.
Yeah.
So I think where we are at the moment, that's why I said about winning a cup this year. I think where we are at the moment, I think we probably are a little bit of a cup team, because we're just not consistent enough at the moment. It sounds awful, but we're a little bit of a Brighton at the moment. It's very similar to how they've been over the last few years. They've beaten a lot of teams that they shouldn't really beat and put in some good performances, but then the next week they go to crap again. And you can think, well, how can you put that performance in and then the following week do that? We're kind of like that at the moment. So
it's a bit it's disappointing from that point. I mean, Brighton are doing very well. Again, I think their model is one that's really good. They're getting lots of players in that no one's ever heard of, and then turning big profits on them and stuff like that. And still managing to replace them, still managing to play attractive football, still managing to win games and so on. And it's stuff that you really want to see, right? And I guess that's where we want. I mean, I don't know about you, but I know that a lot of people go, just give us the money, to get someone else in who's just going to pump loads of money in it, oil money. It could be China or Russia or anyone. I don't care who they are. Just get them in to spend the money so we win everything. But I'm not sure whether that's something that I personally would want to see.
No.
I do like the idea of youngsters and growing organically. I don't know whether that's just me or what.
No, I feel the same. People going, oh, we don't care. Let's just get up there. But it takes a sting. I mean, look at Man City. I think when they won the treble, I was like, it means nothing. It means nothing. You've gone out and be able to buy. You're basically playing Championship Manager on cheap level with unlimited funds.
Yeah,
it means nothing. Even United back in the day used to drive me up the wall because they were winning everything. But I watched that with a West Ham fan. That final they beat Bayern Munich, and I was generally happy that they won that, because I just thought that's an English team that everyone says they're the best. They've got to prove it now against a German team, and they did it. And I thought fair play. But they had a lot of core young players. That was the thing for me. Yeah. There's a lot of English young players in it, and they did it the right way. That's obviously I'd love to see Tottenham do the same, but I'm the same as you. I'd like to see, that's why like when Pochettino was in there, we had a lot of young players, and he gave them all the chance, and it looked like we're doing the right way. And I don't think, Newcastle, they can't spend the money they want to, they're restricted now by financial fair play, and they can't go out and go mental. The only thing is it's playing into Man City's hands now, because them other teams can't catch them now. You know,
they've already spent their money, haven't they? Man City have already spent their money. I mean, they're now in a situation where they're kind of, they're okay in terms of their spend. They don't have to go out and spend the massive money because they've
no,
already got that basis of players. They've got the core. All they have to do is every season add one or two players. Whereas where we are is we're talking about literally replacing a 22. It's not even just a starting 11. It's a 22, right? Because
yeah,
it's not just that 11 that we need to cover. It's the additional, the backup players and stuff like that. When you're looking at the bench and you're saying, okay, we've got a couple of 18-year-olds, a 19-year-old, and we got like Dragushin, 23 years of age, and all the rest of it. You're looking at those kind of players and you're going, well, they're very, very young. We need a bit more of a mixture. We need a little bit more of experience in there as well. So we're buying for the future, because bear in mind we've got the Korean lad coming as well,
yeah,
and I think there's another centre back who we've got. Can't think what his name is. It starts with a V, but I can't say it.
yeah. Same. I was going to say him. He's only young as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a young lad as well. And you've still got Ashley Phillips. You've still got Dane Scarlett. You've still got this core of youngsters out there that are your backup. But essentially, we still need some experience in there, some good experience that's going to work alongside that and help those players through, because the core of the team is still very, very young. I mean, you think the team that beat Man City, what did they say? The average age was 23 years of age.
Yeah, yeah,
And at that point, you had Ben Davis in that team. So
yeah,
some of them must have been pretty young, right? So I guess that brings me naturally onto this next point. I guess. Do you think that fans are basically flip-flop merchants? I know that sounds really disrespectful. I don't mean to be disrespectful to all the fans, but just picking up the saying you said earlier about when we win, we go mad. Yeah, great, we're brilliant, we're on the right way. And when we lose, it's so bad that it's almost depressing. Are we just flip-flopping as a fan
yeah.
base?
Yeah, it's kind of like Jekyll and Hyde, isn't it? Really, everyone gets all excited and carried away, and then the next week it's doom and gloom. We need to get rid of him.
Yeah,
He's crap. And it's the same old single out the same players. It's we seem to be scapegoat FC sometimes. I think we kind
yeah,
of look for one player. The whole team could play crap, but they'll be like, oh no, it's Brennan Johnson's fault.
yeah,
It's his fault because we lost. Yeah, the other week they were cheering his name because he scored. And you just think, well, we are flip floppy. I think most clubs are, but I think
yeah,
we go from one extreme to another. I mean, there was a guy, I think it was on one of your channels, I think I was having a discussion with, shall we say. We had a different opinion. And, he was like, I think he said Ange out. I said, well, okay, well, that's fair enough, but who are we gonna change him with? And I didn't get a straight answer. I mean, we had a conversation for quite a while. It went on for quite a bit. And in the end, I just said, look, mate, at the end of the day, we're both Spurs fans. You're entitled to your opinion. I'm not going to
yeah,
change. If that's how you feel, I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm just giving you my opinion. Whether you want to listen to it or not, that's up to you. You don't have to walk away and
yeah,
go, okay, you're right. I'm wrong. That's what it's not, that's not what it's all about. But we are flip-flop, it does get frustrating. I mean, I don't know about you, but after defeat, I kind of have to come off social media and not go near it. I'm in a few
yeah,
Spurs groups and that, and I don't want to look at it because I know it's going to be the same thing. And the thing that I get annoyed with is it's the ones that at the beginning said, Ange ain't good enough. So it's kind of like when you lose, they're waiting to pounce and go, I told you weren't good enough. And you think, well, he was all right the other week, wasn't he? You weren't saying anything then. They're just kind of waiting for the doom and gloom. So I think there is a lot of fan base that are kind of doom and gloomy. They kind of, I think we're so used to it. They kind of thrive off it a little bit. You don't see them on social media until we lose. And then there's a big, massive rant about it, But football's like that. It's up and down. It isn't always up, isn't always down, you
I
just got
think.
to kind of, go on,
Yeah, go
sorry.
on. Sorry, I butted in. I shouldn't have butted in. All
That's
I
all
was
right.
going to, I was just going to say, like, about the point about that. So I do feel sometimes, people use it as an opportunity to push their own agenda, and to get more clicks and to get more streams and more people watching and right. And I guess and I've always said it's probably one of the reasons why this channel is not as big as some other channels, because I try very hard to be a bit more balanced. I'm an old guy, right? I've been there, I've seen it. We've had so many false dawns that so you kind of get used to it. But yeah, it does annoy me. And the biggest thing for me is when people get really personal about it. The fact that if you're not a person shouting from the rooftops that you want Levy dead or out or whatever, then you're a Levy lover. Well, I've got no love for the bloke one way or the other. Until somebody else comes in and he wants to go, he's going to be here until the end. So there's no point me being a Levy lover or a Levy hater. The bloke's there. He's part of the furniture, and that's that. So that's the bit that gets on my nerves, I guess, is the kind of personal stuff that comes out of it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, this one guy was sort of saying, I'm a season ticket holder and blah blah. And I sort of said to him, I said, if you're not happy with it, why'd you go and watch it? If it really depresses you, if it really makes you unhappy, why you go? You've got to go in there thinking you're going to win a game, and like I say, all these fans and go, the same ones that turn around and go, oh, you shouldn't get excited because you only beat Brentford. And you just think, well, why bother going then? Why bother going to the match? You've got to take these wins and you've got to celebrate them, because you don't know what's going to happen the next week. You're not expected to win all the time. In the ideal world, we would every week, but that's not how football works. I mean, look at Man City. Look at the games they've lost.
Yeah.
And bearing in mind, Dr. Tottenham's going to be seeing them very soon, because they won 4 games, which is what I'm worried about. Yeah. So what's your feelings on the upcoming Man City game then? Because that's at the Etihad as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that's one of them, isn't it? That's exactly where the term Spursy comes from, and Dr. Tottenham and all the rest of it is. We lose against Ipswich, have an absolute massive meltdown, and then we'll go up to the Etihad and win 1-0, right? And then it'll be like, fucking didn't see that coming. And and it's a bit like that for me, and it all goes back to this inconsistency business. I mean, personally, I think it's going to be difficult up there, absolutely difficult, because they're going to be really, really up for that. They're going to want to win that game for sure. They ain't going to want to lose 5 games on the trot, are they?
No.
Especially, but luckily for them, it's only really Liverpool are being that consistent, and this is Arne Slot's first season, so you've got to think maybe the wheels will come off at some point. Maybe he's going to get hit with a load of injuries, and with something like Man City, that they just keep rolling and keep rolling and keep rolling. So you can kind of see if needs be in January, he'll go out and he'll just get whoever he wants that will make the difference. So yeah, it's going to be a difficult one for that point of view. I want to ask you, I know time's kind of ticking on really, but I did want to ask, I've got a couple more things I just wanted to go through. I talked about this the other day with the Essex boys. What's your view on these player platitudes at the end of games? I got really fed up the other day. I was like literally listening to Son and to Romero and Porro and all these people, and they say the same things, the same media-based, media-trained kind of platitudes and stuff. Well, how do you feel about that? Do they get under your skin the same as they do for me, or is it just part of the game now? You just kind of think, well, fair enough. At least they've apologised.
It's not really an apology, though, is it? It's kind of, you're kind of like, this is a script here. For when we lose, pick up this script, read that out, everything's all good. It's not. We're all livid, at the end of the game, livid. And you want to see a player hacked off, or even say, do you know what? I don't want to talk to you right now because I'm so wound up, and walk off. Yeah. You'd want to see that, wouldn't you? You know, do you remember the time that I think it was on the All or Nothing documentary when Hugo Lloris had that massive Barney with Son because Son wasn't tracking back, and you want to see that though. You want to see someone saying, look, this is crap, guys. What are you doing? What you're playing at? Don't use the same old, oh, well, and then they get in their Bentley and drive home. No, there's people that can't afford to go to games and they go and pay good money to watch that. You want to see a bit more than some script that they've been told to read out. You know, it winds me up. It does wind me up, I must admit.
It's the same. It's the same old thing, you know. And if I was the interviewer, I think I'd have to call them out on it, because it would drive. Because you hear the same thing. Like, we have to learn from this. It's disappointing. Apologies to the fans. We'll work on it in training. We'll get better. You know, and all this. And you think to yourself, I've heard it too often. I've heard that I've heard that so many times that it's just boring now. I'd rather, like you say, I'd rather come out and go, well, we were shit today. We totally messed it up. We didn't have the play. We didn't play well enough. We didn't have the right attitude or the right mentality or whatever it is. Because it would be interesting. I haven't done it, but it would be interesting to actually watch the Ipswich game back live on TV, just to see how bad we were, because it felt really, really bad on the day. But like, I've seen like the highlights on Match of the Day sort of thing, and we didn't look as bad. Right, we didn't look as bad as it felt on the day, and for a, you know, all bar a handball, we could have drew the game, right? So it would be interesting to kind of see if it was as bad as it was. But afterwards, the players with their platitudes was really getting on my nerves. Really getting on my nerves. Colin's just put in the chat here, we have to be patient. Ange's done good. Of course, every club loses, but we as supporters should stay with positivity. The press and the media love slating us. Come on, you Spurs. And I guess, I mean, that's a fair comment, right? It's exactly what we're saying, really, I guess. Just to kind of finish off, because we are 51, not 52 minutes. Bloody hell, I don't feel like we've been chatting that long.
No, I
know. January transfer window's coming up. Do you think, number one, do you think we're gonna dip our toes into a transfer market? And for you, what's your number one priority, do you think?
I think we will. I think they will definitely be looking at play. I think they already are looking, and I think a left centre back. I think that's got to be a must. It's got to be a must. Someone who's pacey at the back, because when we've lost that pace at the back, as it's shown, it's a different game, isn't it? Altogether, the team's different. Yeah. When you haven't got Mickey van der Ven in that team, it's different. Romero don't look as settled as he is. It's weird, isn't it? Them two together, it seems to really work. It kind of calms him down a little bit, because Romero he's not as rash. His decision making seems to be a lot more focused.
Yeah.
When Mickey van der Ven's there, because he's kind of thinking, well, if I mess up, he's going to run back and scoop it up. You know, I ain't got to worry about it. So it takes the pressure off him. So I think a left centre back, definitely, 100%. Obviously, this other guy's coming in. He's going to go on the left. There is talks about Timo Werner going back. I did see that today in the group chat. Yeah. But that Odegaard, how long's he out for? He's out for quite a while, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's a hamstring again, isn't it? So he's out for a while. Richarlison's out for a significant amount of time. So again, there we're looking really light there. And I know they say Son can play in that position, and we've got Solanke, and you've got obviously Will Lancashire. But again, Will Lancashire still just a very young man. Needs to kind of really get some games under his belt. I agree with you. I think a centre back, left-sided centre back would be really much appreciated, especially one with pace. As I say, Dragushin doesn't have the pace, and he has come under a little bit of fire recently with his positioning. I think with Romero, he kind of attacking from an attacking point of view. He gets right up there because he knows he's got Mickey van der Ven to back him up, which is kind of his strength. The other one for me, I think, depending on what's happening with Jed Spence, which is the big mystery about Jed Spence, is that we need someone to be able to cover for Udogie as a priority. Because I worry that if he's out, we're playing an 18-year-old kid who's generally a right back or midfield at left back. And I'm not saying he's done a terrible job, but I just worry that we are very, very thin in a couple of those positions.
Yeah, no, I agree that left side. Yeah, so I completely overlooked that. Yes, that is an issue, because I was thinking when Dogi's not in there, it's we haven't got any options, have we really? So anyone
No,
go in there?
yeah, Jed Spence. Jed Spence is obviously someone who can play at left back, but again, I think he's generally a right back. But I know I mean, against Coventry, he came on at left back and did pretty well.
Why isn't
But
it? Why isn't he featured more? Sorry.
I think he's been injured. As I
Right.
understand it, he's been injured. But then at the same time as being injured, he was obviously out of the Europa squad, which again we've all talked about as a really strange decision. But as I understand it, it's a little bit more technical. And Nige Fox from South Dorset Spurs would probably be able to explain it better than I would. But I think there's something about the homegrown and the home trained players limits and how many you can have and da da da.
Right.
So I think there's a reason for it. I don't think it's as simple as Ange didn't want him in the squad. I think he probably would have had him in the squad all day long, but there was some reason why he couldn't, because it stops others or something. I don't know.
Right.
So yeah, but you know, the re-emergence of Jed Spence looked as if it was going to be a real positive. I must say, I know he's been injured, but I have seen some videos of him training recently. So hopefully he's on his way back, and he may get a run out. But again, I would still rather see him as the right back up, and we have a left back up, if you know what I mean. You know,
someone who actually plays in that position would be nice.
Yeah, someone who specialises in that position rather than being able to play in that position. I know Ange likes players that can play in multiple positions, and that's why players like Archie Gray are key to the system. Same with the front players and stuff like that. I guess just kind of picking up on the Werner thing. I at the beginning of the season, when we said that we were re-signing him on loan, I was still not impressed and still not keen on it, to be honest with you. I do feel like he's been a bit of a whipping boy, but I'll stick with my guns about him. But to be fair, there's been opportunities where he's played fairly well without actually doing enough, and that's been the disappointment. And the goal against Man City was, brilliant, and I'm hoping that could mean that he kind of starts to actually do something. But with the young lad from Korea coming over, does that mean the end of him? And of course, we've still got Mikey Moore to come back from his illness. But again, 17-year-old kids, this is a lot of players for, a couple of more seasons in the future rather than now, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the Timo Werner thing, he does offer something. I mean, you're always going to get a player in a team that, you look at any team, there's always one player that you just think you probably could upgrade that. And he's definitely one of them. I genuinely want him to do well.
Yeah.
But it just don't seem to work out for him, And he has some games where he gets in good positions and that his decision making can be off, but he does offer that pace down that side. And I suppose that opens up, that leaves people to think we've got to worry about him. So it kind of leaves the right-hand side open. So it's kind of one of them, when he don't really do a lot, is he out helping the right-hand side do more? But you just want someone who cross the ball a bit better, really.
Yeah. But to be fair, I mean, he's shown that he can do that, but he just doesn't seem to do it enough. I mean, I've seen there was one he played into Mikey Moore. I can't think who we were playing. It was probably a Europa game. And he played the ball into Mikey Moore. And if Mikey Moore had buried that, it was just such a perfect cross.
Yeah.
And there's just been a couple of opportunities, whereas if that had gone his way, we'd have all been off his back, I think. It would have bought him a little bit more time. But like I said, sometimes it just don't work for a player. You think it's going to, but it just doesn't. And I just have that feeling it's just not going to happen for him. But the problem is, like I've said, all the backups that we're getting are all real young players. And they might be fantastic, but you do need a level of experience in there, certainly in the Premier League. Nigel Fox. I speak of the devil. Look, Nigel Fox is on there. If that is the same Nigel Fox, hopefully it is the same
hopefully
Nigel Fox.
So.
Werner is one of the few players that can take a defender on and beat him. He can, but then is he going to do with his final ball? That's the problem, Nigel. That's the problem. But
that's frustrating to watch, though. Oh, I hope that is Nigel. Hello, Nigel, by the way. He's a good man. But yeah, I suppose there is that. It's frustrating though, isn't it? When Spurs have got players that have got capable of taking players on and they don't do it. That's one of the most frustrating things watching a game, and you think, why are you not trying to run the ball past them? You could do it, but you're deciding to stop and then pass it backwards. It's just, yeah.
It is
Is
nice.
that not? It is
Good to
Nige.
see you,
Hello,
Nige.
Nige.
Thanks for joining.
Nice one, Nige. Good
Yeah, no,
man.
I agree. It is good. Like you say, Sonny can take players on. Odebear, when he plays, he can take players on. Udogie can take players on. Even players. Kulu. I mean, he's so strong on the ball. We haven't even spoken about Kulu, but he could take players on, and Werner can take players on, and he can get that pace. The issue is his confidence with that final ball. If only he'd have been able to bury a couple of those opportunities or play that ball in for a couple of other people, it would have been perfect. And we could have all then got off his back and said, no,
Yeah.
he's contributing to the team. And with his level of experience, Champions League, Premier League experience, and all the rest of it, then you've got to say to yourself, that was he's worth his place in the squad, if nothing else. So, yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
Despite not being the same position, is he Sissoko Mark II? Do you remember the amount of sticks Sissoko got?
Yeah.
Do you remember all that? Everyone was on his
Yeah.
back. But I mean, he did, to be fair, he did come good. He did come good for us. But yeah, he was one of them players that week in, week out, people were like, oh, he's not good enough. Need to get rid of him. He was one of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
no,
you say,
definitely.
you just got that gut feeling that ain't going to click for him, which is gutting because I want it to, but it don't seem like it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, most kind of reasonable, sensible football fans will want all of their players to play well. If you haven't got an agenda against any of these players or whatever, then you all want them to do well. No one wants their players to be poor, and it's just such a shame for them. I've always been one for the underdogs. Probably why I end up supporting Tottenham in the first place. I've always loved an underdog, and I always want to see the best in people and stuff like that. But maybe that's one of the reasons being too soft. Maybe we've got to be stronger as fans and go, if it's not good enough, we've got to upgrade it. But then that's Angie's job. That's Angie's job to do that. So one final question. I know we've gone over hour and 2 minutes already. So one final question, and I think I know the answer to this anyway, right? But is Ange still the man for you? You, Ange, in
100%. 100%. There's nothing. I've seen enough to know that it's the right direction for the club, and I don't see anyone else coming in and doing better at all. But like I say, he's there. He's in the process of sorting things out. We get someone else in, they're starting all over again, and I'm sick of that. I'd rather stick it out, and I think we'll go places with this guy. I think we just need to keep going through it, putting ourselves through it, and I think it will come good. I think in the end it will.
You know what they say: if you're running, if you're going through fire, you've got to just keep going till you get to the other end to get out of it. There's no point turning back because you're just doing the same thing every time. And the more you do the same thing every time, what they say insanity is doing the same thing and thinking it's going to change something. But I don't know. It's one of them, isn't it? But listen, Lewis, it's been great chatting to you, mate. I really appreciate it. This couldn't have gone any better from my point of view. I've had a really good chat. The hour has flown by. Hopefully, you guys in the comments that have been watching along with us, I hope you've appreciated what's been said. And if you agree with us, great. If you don't agree with us, then it's about opinions. You're entitled to yours. But yeah, all that's left to say is, Lewis, thanks for joining me tonight. We'll kind of chat again in the future, I'm sure, and maybe come on and do a shoot the shit with me one time, and we'll kind of leave it there. But yeah, thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right, thank you very much.